Noches, vamos a empezar. La sesión empieza.
Sorry, just a second. I think I have the
Un momento, por favor.
translation settings wrong.
Creo que tengo el canal de la interpretación equivocado.
Just a minute, please.
Un momento, por favor.
I switched the controls over to someone who knows what they're doing, so bear with
He
us.
cambiado el control a alguien para que
Okay, we're going to try this again. Looks like it is working now. I will call to order the Canby School District Board of Directors regular meeting. Going to read a statement really quickly about our interpretation options for tonight. As we begin our board meeting, I want to let everyone know that we will be interpreting to Spanish this evening. If you would like to listen in Spanish, you will choose the Spanish channel on the bottom of your screen. You will see a symbol that looks like the world. Click on the world and choose Spanish. We would also like to remind our panelists to speak slowly, allow for some pauses, and wait until all the information on the slide has been shared before asking a question. This will help our interpreters greatly. Thank you, and we appreciate you helping to make this opportunity possible.
Buenas noches. Al comenzar nuestra reunión de la Junta Directiva, queremos hacerles saber que estaremos interpretando esta reunión al español. Si desea escuchar el español, puede elegir el canal en español en la parte de abajo de la pantalla. Verá un símbolo gráfico que se parece al mundo. Haga clic en este símbolo y elija español. También les recordamos a nuestros panelistas que hablen despacio y que permitan algunas pausas entre los hablantes. Esto ayudará a nuestros intérpretes y apreciamos su paciencia. Gracias y nos da gusto brindarles esta oportunidad.
Okay. Thanks, Yvonne. Item 2.0, changes to the agenda.
No.
I have one.
I'm not sure whose voice that was, sorry.
Sorry, that's me, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thanks, you.
My hand is raised now, sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of voices.
Yes. Under item 5.1, return to school planning update and board discussion, you have Trip, Autumn, and Angie speaking yourself and report and strategy. And you had sent an email saying that Steph and I could talk and we're not listed on here. And also we had sent in a request to have a speaker and some slides that he wanted to share Mark Thielman from Alsea School District, a superintendent there. So are you going to put that on the agenda here, or how are we going to do that?
As we've emailed back and forth, we are not going to add him as a presenter this evening. I'm happy to, we can amend the names on the list if you'd like for you and Stephanie. I'm happy to do that.
Isn't it part of our board superintendent working agreements that if 2 board members ask for that, we can have that added to the agenda? I'm confused.
It is, and I added the topic to the agenda as is indicated by the policy. You're welcome to make a motion if you'd like, I suppose, but I've determined that we would not be having him as a speaker tonight.
Yes, I do see that you added an opportunity via email for Steph and I to talk, but we specifically asked for him to be added to the agenda. So so you're saying that I would have to make a motion and we'll go from there? Because you're not going to allow it. I just want to make sure you're not going to allow it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not going to allow it.
So I would please ask to make a motion to add Mark Thielman to our agenda to be able to talk and present to us how he's been successful in reopening schools.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to add, I'm sorry, I didn't write down his name, Mark.
Thielman?
Thielman.
I was like, where did my screen go? As a presenter this evening. Is there any discussion?
I have one question, one clarification.
Sure.
Question.
Yes.
This is the superintendent from the Alsea that's got 300 students. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it has 954. That email was not correct. And he's been speaking with lots of different.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know my vote.
Any other discussion? Seeing none.
I'd like to add something, Angie.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I really wanted Mark to come tonight to talk to the board about his successes in keeping his school open and some of the challenges he's had and what he's done to overcome those. And that was an extremely important thing to me. You first told me that you would allow him to speak. You told me you would. And then you told me you wouldn't after you found out he didn't have as many kiddos as you thought he did. But you did say you were going to allow him to speak. And I would like him to speak tonight.
Is there any other discussion?
One last thing, he drove all the way from the beach to be here tonight. And he has a very short slideshow of which I think is extremely valuable information. And I do not want to waste his time.
Any other discussion? Okay, Kamala, will you please call the roll?
Stephanie?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Sarah?
Nay.
Tom?
Nay.
Rob?
Nay.
Mike?
Nay.
And Angie?
Nay. Motion fails. Are there other changes to the agenda? I think Tripp, you said no.
No.
Okay. Item 3.0, public forum and announcements. Due to the online meeting format, we request that public comments be submitted via email to the board secretary by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Statements should be brief and should not reflect adversely on the background, character, or motives of any individual. Commenters wishing to read during the meeting will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and depending on the volume of comments, an overall time limit may be set. Board members will not respond directly to public comments, as this is our time to listen. I wanted to note a couple of things. We received some public comments that did not include a request to be read into during the meeting tonight. And so we'll go back through and make sure that anything that wasn't sent to the whole board, that those comments are shared with everyone. And I also just wanted to say that we have an increasing number of comments that do not meet our standards in terms of not reflecting adversely on the background, character, or motives. So I just ask people as they are putting together their comments, if you can try to focus on the issues and not as much on the individuals. Okay, so we'll start. Sarah's gonna help me out again. I'll read the first few and then Sarah will go from there. Just a moment, please.
And I will keep time.
Great, thank you. Okay, first one is my screen to work here. Allison Robinson. Dear School Board, I debated writing this letter for the last few days. I didn't want my son to be treated differently or picked on by friends if they found out I sent in a letter. But ultimately, I think it's important. The other day in an email that was sent out by Canby High Principal, it stated they were looking for ways to bring back small groups of students who are struggling. I've reached out to my son's counselor to see how we could get on that list. It sounds like the administrators determine who comes back. How do the administrators know who is truly struggling? They see poor grades. What if the students are doing okay with school by mentally, physically struggling? Do administrators know that? My son is struggling, not only academically, but mentally. He strives off routine and in-person learning. He needs to get back into the classroom as soon as possible. We've looked into switching to a private school that is full-time in person. However, we can't afford that right at this moment, nor does he want to leave his friends. Please consider bringing back more students than you think is necessary. They all need it. Okay, this is from Ashley Fryman. To the school board, I am having a really difficult time understanding how the board has come to the conclusion that the hybrid model is what's best for our students. 3.5 hours, 2 times a week is completely unacceptable. As a parent with a child who is struggling in reading, how would he ever be given the chance to thrive when some of the teachers have made it clear they would not break the 6-foot rule or even pass out papers? What is my child walking into as they come back to school after almost an entire year of being home? Desks sit 6 feet apart, no small groups, no library or lunchtime, no circle groups or social interaction. This is not what I will send my children back to. I refuse for this to be the acceptance that my children are given. Shame on you, school board. And to the parents, how in the world are we supposed to accommodate this ridiculous schedule? To the stay-at-home parent with littles at home, to the working parents, to the single parents, to the parents that already struggle to accommodate distance learning. Now you have to juggle 3.5 hours, 2 times a week, and also distance learning on independent time, but also from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. We can do better, Canby. We have a desperate need to get our students of all ages back into the classroom. We have students being diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and some even taking their own lives. This alone should have been the push we needed to get our students back in school weeks ago. We have seen the studies that COVID-19 is not affecting the younger generation like it is the elderly, and we keep seeing the numbers decrease as the days go on. With the vaccine being prioritized to teachers, what more do you need to feel safe going back into the classroom? Some of you say everyone needs to be vaccinated. Some of you say you won't break the 6-foot rule or pass out papers. Some of you have painted this fear-mongering picture of what entering your classroom is going to look like, and I refuse to accept this for my children because they deserve better. We have seen numerous cities and states go back to regular all-day schooling with no spike in COVID-19. We have watched other states, counties get sports programs back up and going and getting our students back to the gymnasium, cheering each other on with no spike in COVID-19. We are watching other states making their students a priority to get them back into the classroom on a regular schedule, while we are still fiddle farting around coming up with ridiculous schedules that most people cannot accommodate. Bankers, grocery clerks, gas station attendants, nurses, doctors, electricians, plumbers, and so many more workers do not get the choice to work from home. They never had the option to stay home. They have to show up to work or they get fired and replaced. It should be absolutely no different for our teachers. While nobody signed up to expose themselves to a virus, which, did you say time, Kamala? Okay, thank you. And just so everyone knows, we have the written comments. So even though the words that are beyond the 3-minute limit, we all have and will review. Okay, this is from Brian. You're probably going to butcher the name, Cucho. Canby School District is overcrowded. We would like to know why other schools such as North Marion and Woodburn Elementary Schools, Valor French Prairie, and Nellie Mare are expanding buildings during the pandemic to accommodate more students. Another cheaper idea would be to do year-round school. Depending on how the grades are split up, it would reduce the number of students by 25 to 30% at any one time. This would eliminate building a costly school building, and the money saved could be used for more technology. Number 2, statistics show that when high school students enter school later in the morning, getting more sleep, they have a higher graduation rate. Is this something that can be done? This is from Colleen Hamilton. I am writing this letter because I care about children in our Canby community. I know Stephanie Carlson, and she has the best of intentions for all youth in our school district. I am appalled that Canby School District Superintendent would want to silence a board member. Mr. Goodall's actions regarding this issue were not, nor ever will be, appropriate. The Oregon State schools are in bad academic shape, and Canby is at the low end of that list. It seems to me that our superintendent would be happy to have board members who really want to make the Canby schools better, and that he would work with them, not against them. Why is the school superintendent allowed to personally attack any board member? As a school board, you need to take charge of how Mr. Goodall is allowed to treat the school board, and for that matter, everyone in the school district. What he has done is wrong, and the school board needs to call him on it. As a taxpayer, I want to register my vote against Mr. Goodall. He needs to be strongly reprimanded, and if this type of behavior continues, he needs to be removed from his position by the school board. We need to keep our Canby schools safe for children, not Mr. Goodall's political agenda. So I'm going to read a comment from Emily Melender, and then we have 2 individuals who plan to read their own comments. And so I will be calling on them next. So it's, like I said, from Emily Melender. In the fall, we were presented 2 options, online only and connected at home, that would transition to hybrid when schools were allowed to open. We chose the latter for consistency and teacher input, which we find valuable. In our school newsletter yesterday from Karis, it mentioned that once decide which program we would like to do, they will reassign kids with teachers. I was very thrown by that statement. When we chose connected at home, we assumed our kids would stay with the same teacher when things transitioned to hybrid. Why is a 3rd program being offered now so late in the school year? If parents don't want their kids to go back to the classroom, why are those kids not being moved into the online only program? I am very frustrated that my kids may have to change teachers for such a small amount of the school year. Had we known this in the fall, we may have opted for a different schooling option. We are frustrated, to say the least. Teacher consistency and rapport is incredibly important for great learning to happen. It takes months to become familiar with a teacher and expectations. I hope you will reconsider this plan that is purely not in the best interest of the children that it will be affecting. Okay, so I'm going to Brook Toma, I'm going to turn on your microphone. Hi, Brooke.
Hello. My husband wrote this and he's on another meeting tonight, so I'm reading for him. Thank you for your efforts to get kids back in person learning. While I do appreciate this very small step forward, it is not enough. The proposed schedule presented by Andy McKean showing 2 half-days per week in class is frankly unacceptable. Children of Canby that want to go back in-person learning need to be in school buildings full-time 5 days a week. By the time kids get back in school in this extremely part-time model, at least 6 months of in-person education, social connections, and emotional support have been lost in just this school year alone. If the reasoning behind not going back to school full-time is being driven by the teachers and their union, it is time to take back control. The citizens and parents of Canby will not tolerate this tail-wagging-the-dog approach to our children's future. We are literally on the brink of a lost generation. You, the school board, can do something about it, and you need to. Which of you is willing to stand up and fight for our kids to get them back into school buildings full-time? CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said just this week, vaccination of teachers is not a prerequisite for safe reopening of schools. If it is safe to have children and teachers in class for 2 half days per week, why is it not safe to have them in class for 2 full days a week? Why not 3 or 4 or 5? Why are we wasting another entire month before kids can resume in-person education? If it is safe for other communities and states with higher test positivity rates to have kids in school full-time, what is unique about Canby that doesn't allow for it? Board members, you need to think long and hard about the job you were elected to do. You have a responsibility to the children of Canby who want or need to be in a classroom to get them back into school in person and full-time. Please take this seriously. Our children's future is in your hands. What are you going to do with it? Thank you.
Angie, you're on mute.
Just talking to myself. Thanks, Brooke, and please thank your husband as well. You said he was the one that wrote it, so thanks to him also. Okay, now, Jenny, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, Jenny. Going to allow you to talk, and you can tell me how to say your name so that I don't mess it up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, Jenny Stayskull.
Stayskull. Okay, please proceed.
Thank you. Dear Canby School Board, this past year has been anything but normal for all of us. We have experienced extreme difficulties beyond our choosing, and yet we have forged ahead with hope, courage, and a determination to teach our children to choose resiliency when life presents challenges. The time has now come for our district to choose the educational, emotional, and social well-being of our kids over the excuses used to keep our schools closed. The CDC itself has been saying for 7 months that kids need to be in school. Continually pushing in-person start dates further away is unacceptable. Every school district in the country faces the challenges of providing adequate health and safety measures for return to in-person learning. It is erroneous to think that we cannot return until every imaginable protocol is met and risk eliminated. The American Academy of Pediatrics has stated that policymakers and school administrators should acknowledge that COVID-19 policies are intended to mitigate, not eliminate risk. No single action or set of actions will completely eliminate the risk of SARS-CoV-2 transmission, but implementation of several coordinated interventions can greatly reduce that risk. It is safe for kids to return to school with a few simple health and safety practices. The health and safety practices we all knew about last year. However, Canby schools remain closed, and while other districts much larger have successfully opened their doors and continue to stay open. Miami-Dade School District in Florida has 350,000 students, and they opened in October. DeSoto County schools in Mississippi, 30,000 schools, opened in August. Even private schools in our own community and state have been open all year for in-person learning. There is no excuse why we cannot accomplish the same. In January, Oregon had over $600 million of unspent funds from the federal government to use for health and safety measures to get our schools open. If evidence proves it safe and necessitated, other schools across the country are safely making it happen without everyone vaccinated first, and we have more than enough money to cover safety procedures. Why has our district remained closed? The COVID virus is our reality. We cannot change that. Every day of our lives, we assume risks and make choices accordingly. If we are uncomfortable with those risks, we have a choice. Face them head on or take another path. But we don't get to eliminate others' opportunities to make choices because we are uncomfortable. That is not how the world works. Not everyone is going to choose to return to in-person learning when schools open, and I respect that choice. If our schools were open, 100% of families would have had that choice. But for almost an entire year, 0% of the families in our district have been given that choice. Enough is enough. It is time to stand up for what is right and open our schools, not months from now, but today. All families deserve a choice. Thank you.
Jenny?
Thank you.
Sarah, I will turn it over to you to read comments from there.
All right, thanks, Angie. Okay, the next comment is from Joe and Bree Schneider. Dear Canby School Board, I'm writing in to show my support for our school board member, Stephanie Carlson. I have known her long enough to vouch for her character and her desires for the positions she holds. She has incredible integrity, strong work ethic, and more grit than most people I know. I am saddened that she has had so many attacks on her personally as well as professionally for just simply questioning the status quo or defending parents who are concerned about the educational agendas being pushed. It has come to parents' attentions that our children are currently in a pot of warm water, slowly coming up to a full boil. That's the most dangerous place to be. Like her, why would we not question the schools being closed, certain curriculums being reviewed, or why Oregon is forcing transgender sex ed? Stephanie is first a mom and then second a board member. She sees and relates to every mother out there who is currently aware of what's happening. My husband and I currently have two boys, one in first grade and the other in preschool. We are a strong family unit who strives to raise two boys to become men. I have to be honest, with the research I have done on some of the current curriculum that could be adopted by Canby, I feel super safe and excited that Stephanie is representing our family at meetings. Stephanie is true Maya watchman on the wall. She has parents' true interests at heart by fighting for what we believe in. We voted for her for a reason. She is called to her current position as a school board member because she won all of our votes with no campaign. She was so well known for her character that no one needed to be convinced she was right for the job. In short, thank you, Stephanie, for standing up for us who do not have a strong voice, the children who need to be back in school, and for being the watchman we all need in a generation who says up is down and curved is straight. I support her and would vouch for her anytime. Sincerely, Joe and Bree Schneider. Next is Josie Alexander. I am writing in support of Canby School Board member Stephanie Carlson. Stephanie was voted onto the Canby School Board with virtually no campaign because she is well known for her hard work and dedication to the many values that we as parents hold so deeply. Stephanie has proven to uphold her hard work by not making quick decisions, coming prepared to each meeting, asking appropriate questions, and bringing up logical points. These qualities are what got her voted in, and these qualities should not bring about personal attacks and question her ability to perform her school board duties. Stephanie's questions and concerns come directly from the people who voted her in. She is doing exactly what she was voted in to do. I know many parents within the Canby community, and at this point, there are two reasons parents fear putting their children back in public school, and Stephanie is the one who parents look to for answers and honesty. She would be the one who would ultimately ease the minds of many parents to make the decision on whether to rejoin public school or not. Number 1, COVID. Stephanie is an advocate for safely opening schools. She knows the science backs her, and thankfully she understands the benefits outweighs people's fears. Number 2, curriculum. Stephanie is a seawall of protection and transparency for us parents. Parents demand a factual and neutral education for their children. These days, too many truths are twisted and hate and confusion are infused throughout public school curriculum. Stephanie is who this community trusts when it comes to making curriculum decisions for our children. Thank you for your time, Josie Alexander. Next is from Lisa Ford. I believe you care about the welfare of Canby children, or you would not be sitting on this board. Please use your position for the greater good and give our children the option of in-person school. I believe in public education and am hoping and praying you will do the right thing so I do not have to further pursue other options such as private school for my 3 children. 1 year of being disconnected from their teachers and peers is long enough, and it is causing serious long-term damage. Those who don't feel comfortable in person have the option to keep their children home. Those that feel in-person school is healthier for their children must be given that option as soon as possible. The CDC recently released 2 new studies showing schools are safe even without vaccinations. WHO also agrees that school should be the last thing to close and the first to reopen. Pediatricians across the country are speaking out in strong support of all school-age kids getting back to school in person. We need to listen to science and open schools immediately. Our schools have paid the price for far too long. Open for the mental and physical health of our children, and please stop gambling with their future. Thank you, Lisa Ford. The next is from Michaela Ramirez. Dear Canby School Board, first I want to thank you to our entire district for working to commit to in-person learning. While online learning works well for some, it is not the case for many. I was disappointed to hear the original in-person start date was pushed out 3 weeks, but I'm thankful teachers have more time to get vaccinated should they choose. With accepting priority vaccination, however, should come an obligation to return to in-person school as fully as possible. The hybrid model released at the last meeting was not one I had seen before, nor was it impressive. Our SSL substantially lowered the requirement for teacher-led instruction this year, and Canby's proposal barely meets that minimum. How are kids supposed to catch up or meet standards when they will be provided with less instruction than CDL? How are they supposed to learn, follow, and remember new protocols when they are barely in person? I compiled information from other Oregon districts that have proposed committed to an in-person model, see below. Canby is in the group offering the least amount of in-person instruction in K-6 openings. This is not equitable. Most districts opted for double the amount of in-person learning as our model, while including comparable remote learning. I would hope that the proposed schedule is a starting point, but I am concerned that it is the end goal. The science is becoming clear that schools with proper protocols in place are low risk. Nothing is zero risk. And that kids are unlikely to contribute to spread, especially when the protocols are followed. Oregon requirements are one of the strictest in the nation. The CDC has stated that school can resume even without vaccination. Canby must get kids back in the classroom safely, but with great intent and urgency. Otherwise, you will lose the confidence of many families that have held on over the past year. I am afraid there will be a mass exodus from our district that will be hard to recover from. Our kids are falling more and more behind. I remember an inspired speech by a board member saying, we can do better, we must do better, our kids deserve better. So Canby, I challenge you to do better. This is not equitable. And then there's a list of other Oregon districts that have committed to in-person in varying size. Do you want me to read through those, Angie? Districts, I'll jump to the end. District size in parentheses and rounded are enrollment. The K-6 plans as it would have been difficult to incorporate are 7 to 12. Essentially, I'll do the highlight. Canby has 4,600 students and 3 hours, 20 minutes of in-person time. St. Helens, which is 2,800 school district, has 4 hours of in-person time. Oregon Trail School District, 4,500 students with 4 hours of in-person time. And it goes on to list a number of other districts. The next is from Michelle Adam. I am writing in support of Canby School Board member Stephanie Carlson. Stephanie has worked hard to uphold the values and ideals us parents care about. I appreciate the extra mile she goes to think about the overall effect of everything going on in the schools of Canby. She has come under attack by people who oppose some of her values and ideals. They should not have the power to silence her, especially when she was voted on by parents who appreciate and trust her. I am sure that there are board members that don't share my values or ideals, but I don't smear them and demand they be off. It's the diversity of the board that makes parents feel they have a voice. I would like to thank you for your time and listening, and I look forward to what's ahead as we navigate the rest of this year. Sincerely, Michelle Adam. Next is Shannon Schrock. I am writing in support of school board member Stephanie Carlson. Stephanie, like the other board members, has sacrificed her time to serve our school district. This is commendable. Her character should not be defined by one sentence, but by her daily words and actions. She has shown her love and care for the students in Canby. I'm thankful that she is serving on the board and advocating for the same standards that I value and agree with. She is serving me and my children, and I want her to continue serving us on the school board. Thank you, Shannon Schrock. One more. The last is Trisha Moon. I stand with many other parents as well as many of you fighting for our kids' right to be back in the classroom. We have been given a date and then it was set back. This doesn't give much hope. I write for the kids, students, children, and teenagers in Canby that need this to happen. Some of the kids that need it the most don't have a voice to speak up for them. This is why I am still here. We saw the images of the classroom prepped and ready. We waited on January 19th when you were aware Kate Brown would change the rules. Other districts are opening. Teachers are being vaccinated. There has been plenty of time to plan and prepare. Now we need all of our kids' schools to open. I have a senior that should be graduating this year. I am not so sure that will happen. My senior, who has been a tag student for years, a year wasted of both of us trusting that our leaders would fight while we did the work from home. You are losing students academically. You are losing them mentally and emotionally, and you have already lost so many physically, withdrawing their students from the public school system, and more are ready to follow. I know this request we bring doesn't stop at you. Governing authorities and rules to follow make it harder, but you have the power to help us make it happen. Please stand with us, stand for us, and find a way as many other districts and states have been able to. Thank you for your time, Trisha Moon. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to all of our commenters tonight. So we'll move on to item 4.0, the consent agenda, 4.1 minutes, and 4.2 personnel changes. There aren't any changes. Would someone like to make a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Kamala, will you please call the roll?
Stephanie?
Aye.
Dawn?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And Angie?
Aye. Motion carries. So I'm calling this item 5.0 and a half before one. We have a birthday on the board this evening. Rob is spending his 50th birthday with us tonight. My gift to you is I'm not going to sing because you would be very unhappy if I did. But I just want to say very happy birthday and thank you for spending your time with us tonight.
Thank you, Angie, for outing me on my birthday.
Listen, gotta have some fun, right? Okay, item 5.1, return to school planning update and board discussion. So the way we'll handle it is we'll do the district update first, and then we will have the board discussion where Dawn and Stephanie, if you'd like to speak, that would be, so it's kind of two halves of this item. So Trip, do you want to start, or Autumn, are you up first?
We'll start with Autumn, as we normally do. She can walk us through the metrics. Hello, Autumn.
Yep, she's trying to unmute. That's the one thing I cannot do with my.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My mouse keeps disappearing, and then sorry about that. Okay, hi, thank you. Sorry about that. We'll just start with a quick look through what the revised metrics were, and again, that is just from January 19th. Previous to that, the red was above 200, and they have changed that now. So orange is between 200 and 350 cases per 100,000 people. And the really good news is we continue to trend in the right direction. We're in the orange, but just barely. We're at 204.1 cases per 100,000. So getting close to the yellow. You'll recall the only real difference between orange and yellow is that yellow allows for you to start bringing on middle and high school to transition to the on-site or hybrid, as long as there's no transmission with elementary. So as we continue our downward trend in the metrics, we do think, fingers crossed, we'll be in the yellow by the time that we launch our hybrid model for grades 7 through 12 at the end of March. And then I just wanted to give some clarity as we keep seeing downward trend on the green. So it says full on-site learning, but I just want to make it clear, according to this guidance, it's just not full open schools. We still have to follow all of those health and safety protocols in the guidance from ODE and OHA. And that includes social distancing and face coverings and cohorts. So that's still in play. And then the only real difference between the yellow and the green is that yellow is when we transition the middle and high school students into buildings, and the green is when all students are back. And we'll be providing all options for all three learning models, honoring our promise to parents that we give them choices for the remainder of the year. And then again, the yellow for the county test positivity rate, we're doing really well there. So I mentioned this a little bit last time, and we got some additional information. Earlier this week, Director Kathy Sullivan and our nursing team attended a meeting with ODE on this on-site rapid testing. And then there was some confusion between the county public health department and what ODE was instructing. And at the end of the day, it turns out we are not required at this time because we're not in the red metric to offer this on-site testing. But regardless, Director Sullivan made it clear in that meeting, it is the expectation from ODE and OHA. They're really encouraging districts to do that. So we have reached out to our insurer to find out what sort of liability there might be in play when it comes to these tests. And so we're still working through whether we're going to offer them and what that would look like in terms of any sort of liability. But what we do know is that these tests are self-administered. They are not required, and we would not test any student without parental consent. So as we've been working to ensure all of our schools are ready, our facilities director, Larry Burrich, has been working on our HVAC status and maintenance planning. So can we let Larry into present? I know he wants to, you're way better off hearing it from him. He can explain it a lot better than I can. So we'll let him walk through this.
Okay, thanks. Can you hear me? My mouse didn't run away, Autumn. Happy birthday, Rob. So initially we had, did assessment on the units to see what we could do and where we could go. The status is been able to increase the air to 20%. Initially we were trying to get 13 to 18, as normally we had 10. So all of the units are operating at 20% or a little greater. We'll set the units so 4 times a day they'll blast to do a big fresh air intake. Make a few people a little cold, but not too badly. It'll help bring a big boost of fresh air in. You can't run that all the time. Those units the stress on the unit wouldn't take it, and you wouldn't want to do it. We're looking at the weekly air quality testing that we can put some systems in and take readings as needed, or a couple times a week regularly, or if we feel there's an issue, just take readings more often. We have a CO2 tester for air quality comparison. That's just a quick fix. That's not a CO2 tester doesn't measure your mold count or anything like that in air quality. It just basically you take your test outside and your carbon dioxide level should be 250 to 400, somewhere normal, and then you take it inside, compare those and see where you should be. So those are that's a good quick test thing to have. We have our own HVAC guy on board, as you guys know, so it's something that we can really check quickly. We've extended that fan cycle, so that you now get the 9 to 11 air changes per hour across the schools. So we feel good about that. That means completely new air moving in every 30 minutes. And we have, the discussion on the filters has gone back and forth with a lot of groups. And the reality is the MERV 13 on our aging units would constrict the places for the air to come through, and then, restrict the air that's getting into the building. And it, above all this, the biggest factor in this that we need is to get fresh air in the buildings. So even if you changed them every day, the 13s would really restrict the airflow too greatly and cause some stress on our aging equipment. So we are, continuing to use the filters. We have changing them quarterly instead of just a couple times a year, but actually checking them every month. So they're really changed as needed. Some units are, work harder and things of that nature. So that's the update.
Great. Thanks, Larry. I really appreciate the work that Larry and his team continues to do to look into ways that we can assure that our HVAC systems are working as well as they possibly can. Last Friday, we did announce the hybrid in-person learning dates. Again, March 1st, we'll have K3 coming in March 8th, 4th through 6th, and March 29th is our goal for 7-12. One thing I do want to mention again, as long as we meet the metrics to be in the yellow, we can continue to move forward with the option of hybrid for 7-12. And it's important to remember that this is all the first step towards being able to go into the full hybrid model that was presented to the board in the fall. We need to demonstrate that we can operate successfully under the health and safety protocols. And that is certainly our intent. Again, this is really about parent choice, making sure that there's options for families. While we know there are parents that want their children in school, we know that we have a significant number of parents who also have choices. And so we have some that'll be staying and connected at home learning, and also in the Canby Online Learning Academy. And so, Autumn, if you can go through the timeline.
Yeah, so here is just a visual kind of walking through the timeline that gets us to that hybrid in-person model. So at the top, you see last Friday is when we announced our return dates. And then as staff make plans to physically return to our buildings, we're opening the Child Care Center at Canby High School on February 8th. Also, between February 8th and February 10th, we're going to hold a series of school community meetings for K-6 families. And then after those meetings, K-6 families will need to enroll in the learning model they want for their student. And so really this is about making sure everyone understands what's going to happen in the hybrid model so they can decide if that's where they want to put their student. You know, maybe they were in COLA and then now they see what's happening in hybrid and they say, oh, I really do want to go back. So we need to fully walk everybody through what it's going to look like so they can make that decision. Families will get an enrollment form from their school principal, and it's a really quick turnaround for everyone to make their decision because our school leaders need to finalize the student cohort groups on February 12th and then finalize all of the staffing assignments. Again, we kind of explained this before, but the staffing for each model depends on how many kiddos are in each model. On February 16th, we'll provide the board and the community with our new blueprints, and then we'll submit them to ODE and Clackamas County Public Health. I think I mentioned in the last report, there were a few things that were needed to be updated in the new blueprint. So we've been working through that. And then on February 19th, schools will notify parents of their students' class assignment. And then our bus provider plans to have all of the bus routes finalized by February 24th. And so as you can imagine, there's a lot of technical things that need to happen with that, with these kids coming on Tuesday and Thursday and these kids coming Wednesday and Friday. On the week of February 22nd, we're going to have more than 10 hours of staff training physically in the building, walking through the health and safety protocols. And there will be some changes to the K-6 learning day that week. Principals will kind of notify families about those changes as staff are getting some of that hands-on training in the afternoon. And then that'll take us to the week of March 1st, where we begin our hybrid in person for grades K through 3. So they'll either go on March 2nd or March 3rd, depending on which cohort they're assigned. And then grades 4 through 6 will come in the following week. And then we are targeting March 29th for grades 7 through 12, knowing that March 29th is a grading day at Canby High School. So that would mean students would return on the 30th there. Hey, Trent.
Yep. So as Autumn was mentioning there, we're hosting community meetings for each K-6 school next week. Our principals will review the hybrid schedule and all the learning model options with our families. And there'll be a Q&A session rather during that time. They'll send out enrollment forms that, again, we really need our families to return to us immediately. Principals are sending the virtual meeting links to all of their communities this week. And again, here's those meeting schedules. Trost will host 2 meetings on Monday. Karis will be meeting also on Monday. On Tuesday, Knight and Lee will host their meetings. And on Wednesday, 91 and Eccles families can join those meetings. So I really, again, I can't thank our principals enough. We're fortunate to have some really accomplished principals and directors in our district. And I know they're really working hard to make sure that they can put together a plan that's safe and reliable. And then from there, we can again move towards that solid hybrid. So when you look at the, oh, sorry.
Hold on a second. Mike has a question.
I have one.
I'll wait until Trip is done.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Bet.
So again, moving towards a 7-12 hybrid, there's a significant amount of planning when you're talking about the number of students that we have both at our middle school and at our high school. So student cohorts, staffing assignments. We are still in negotiations with our CEA partners We're looking at student transportation and routing, meal planning, community webinars. All of the bullets there that you see go into getting that 7-12 hybrid up and running. It's a little, again, more complicated, but I can't say enough also about the work that Greg Dinza and Jennifer Turner are doing. Again, their teams are working hard to put that together so that we can have our kids back into school at the 7-12 grade levels. Part of what we're doing will be working on some routing to make sure that when our kids get on buses, they're getting on by family. So we'll see kids getting on the bus. You may have kids that are in elementary and middle and high school. They'd be riding the bus together. And so we want to make sure that we can route that appropriately. And that certainly cuts back on the possibility of transmission of the virus. We're also working on plans for meal distribution. Again, we want to make sure that we're feeding all students regardless of the learning model. We need to make sure that we can reconfigure class assignments and cohorts within our learning management systems, right? All of our technology will have to be programmed up for those changes. And then again, our 7-12 staff will have to go through training on health and safety protocols. So we meet weekly, again, to discuss how we can move forward. And I'm looking forward to having this pandemic over, and I'm looking forward to getting our kids into school as soon as we possibly can. So thank you.
Thanks, Trip. And before I jump to you, Mike, feels like a good time to mention, so we had originally been aiming to have tonight's meeting in person for the board. We'll start off with just board members and minimal staff in our in-person meeting for the first time, which will be next meeting. And I just wanted to share that big thank you to our technology team. They're helping facilitate all of these meetings with parents and things. And we felt like that was a place that should be prioritized rather than our work in person. But we will give it a try in 2 weeks. February 18th will be our first in-person board meeting. So just wanted to share that. Mike.
Okay, thank you. First of all, happy birthday, Rob. Trip, I don't know if this is a question or more of a statement, but I can, especially today, since we had our online schooling at our house today with grandkids. So I'm sharing a little bit of frustration, and I hear the frustration with parents by our hybrid model is too short. If that makes sense, the 3.5 hours a day. At what point in time can you expect, or can a parent expect to extend that or to go to full hybrid like you talked in January?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mike. I tried to address it in one of the slides there where, this is really the first step. When you look at the guidelines from ODE, it really talks about being able to demonstrate that you're capable of safely and responsibly bringing kids back to school. We have lots of kids that have never gone through the protocols. We have staff members that are getting trained in protocols. You can only imagine what it's going to be like those first few weeks of school for kids that have been out this long. We have principals that are talking about issues around stamina. So we really want to bring our kids back safely, responsibly, and then give them a chance to gain that stamina to be able to go to a longer day. And then initially there have been some conversations about, concerns about meals and cafeteria and how to set that up. But I think we're moving in the right direction, frankly, where I think, again, if the metrics stay positive, and as Autumn mentioned earlier, if we get all the way into that yellow and we feel confident that it's trending the right way, I really see us moving in a fairly quick manner towards the hybrid that we presented in the fall.
Who has the final say? Does the board have a final say? Can sit there and say, okay, we're going to speed this up and do this, or do we need permission from the state? Does ODE get involved?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the guidelines that ODE put out have requirements within them, and they have recommendations.
Okay.
And so we're tasked with making sure that all of the things that are required, we can confidently say they're required, because certainly there are liability issues when districts don't, adhere to the guidelines that are required. I think the board certainly has a position that they can take, with regards to opening up, but we wouldn't be prepared, frankly, to be able to start school next week, for example, because there's too many things that still have to be accomplished. Training of staff. We still are in working out an agreement with our association. And again, there's just too many things in place that we would have to put in place at this point.
So at what point in time do you think we can give parents an idea of when we're going to full-blown hybrid, when we're coming back? I mean, I share their frustrations, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays.
We all share the frustration.
I
understand
that.
I have a child in school as well. I mean, we're all frustrated, right? No one ever wished for a pandemic to happen. So everybody's working hard to do the best we can, given the resources that we have. And again, what's very difficult right now is the cohorting at 712. You're going to have a lot of work that's going to have to be done there, because you can only have so many kids in a class at any given time, and they can't commingle right throughout the day. So we have to really get that figured out. I would say right now we have a ambitious plan that I think we're going to be able to meet, where we have many school districts have gone with opening K1, for example, then they wait 2 weeks and they bring in K1, 2, then they go another 2 weeks and they bring in K1, 2, 3. Then they go, and we're going 1 week with our kids March 1st in K3, and then a week later on March 8th, we're bringing in the entire K6. And I believe if we can successfully demonstrate that we can keep kids safe and we don't see any significant surge in the area and we're within the metrics, then we'll move quickly to go to the hybrid that is a full day hybrid.
If we're marching along, can ODE say, no, you got to go back?
I mean, ODE is under the governor's office, right? So the governor has, in essence, jurisdiction over the Department of Education. So I'm sure if there was a significant surge, or if there was something that really was problematic with regards to health and safety, absolutely, there could be changes. The ODE could tell us at any given time, right? What's important to recognize is that much of the guideline is considered advisory. Yet again, as I said earlier, there are requirements that you cannot ignore, right? You are required to meet those health protocols. And so I don't at this point, unless something dramatic happens, I don't see the metrics changing, right? They got changed not too long ago by the governor. I don't think that'll happen, but I mean, there's so much that's happened this year in terms of uncertainty, Mike.
Take that back, Trip. I don't want you to jinx us.
Yeah, I'm not going
to become superstitious.
Can I just jump into real quick? I just wanted to reiterate that in this hybrid model, even though, we've got the morning, the 3.5 hours, there is the afternoon of synchronous online with the entire class. And I know it's not all in person. I just wanted to make sure everybody realized that, because we haven't discussed that too much today. And that was while we're in this startup phase by design by the principals to ensure that they were connected, interacting and instructing every student in the cohort every day. So I just I didn't mention it, and I felt remiss.
I totally understand that. But when I see the teacher, when I have grandkids over here and we're working and I see that teacher teaching online, it's not the same. And I know I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I get that. But I want to move that. I want to move as fast as we can to for everybody to get back, but we just need to move faster is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Tom, and then Sarah.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for that question. I was going to ask the same thing. And what I hear and what I repeat, we obviously heard from a lot of parents tonight about concerns about the schedule, the amount of time their kids are in school. And I echo those same concerns, but we do have to have a starting point. And what I hear Tripp say is that we're going to monitor it and that we're going to try to improve that time in front of their teachers and in person. So that is great, and I hope we do. What I would ask Tripp is that maybe, I know people talked about different schedules of different school districts around us, and I haven't honestly read up a lot on them. So what I would ask is maybe sometime over the next week and a half or 2 weeks that we just get an email to the board on reports of different schedules of comparable districts in our area, just so we can understand what's different, what people are doing different. If it is different, I don't know that it is, but I'd be curious to know what people are doing different. And if they're having successes, then we should be able to pivot and make some changes to adjust if we see some.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea, Tom. And I meet weekly with the regional superintendents. We're a very close group. We share lots of ideas. We recognize that we have different circumstances and, sizes of districts, et cetera. But there are some districts in our region that are not opening at all. And there's some again, that have already started with some hybrid and some are on the same schedule that we are, like Lake Oswego is basically on the same schedule that we are. And so we can certainly put that together. I think that would be great. And we've made a commitment as superintendents to try and, again, stay close to one another during a difficult time so that we can trade, expertise and try and do this as well as we possibly can. And hopefully, again, the way things are trending right now, let's hope it continues in that way, that people continue to do the right thing and we get this under control. I'll make sure Kamala puts a note there, so we'll get that out to you. I know Michelle put together a nice chart in terms of some of the information regarding other districts.
You muted yourself, Tom, so I'm going to take that to mean that you are done with your question. So Sarah and then Dawn.
Thanks, Angie. My first comment really reflected what both Tom, you, and Mike already addressed, which I do appreciate the work the district and the teachers have done to move us forward and provide that in-person learning for our students. I think having that choice is critical at this juncture. But I appreciate Superintendent Goodall pointing out that this is the first step of that process, and that our goal is to continue to look at, as Tom said, look at other districts and as protocols and other things continue to change, as our numbers and our metrics continue hopefully to improve, that we look at moving as quickly as possible back to that more robust hybrid model. I do have a lot of concerns with we've been in almost a year of schooling, which reflects 12 hours probably at best for our kids per week. And, as a public school system, we need to do better. We, as much as we can, move forward quickly. I really want to be increasing the number of hours of robust classroom time that our kids have, and give that option for parents. So I appreciate our continually monitoring our ability to move that dial forward. I really appreciate us starting that. And like Tripp said, I do like the accelerated model of moving the grades in. I definitely have seen in other districts that I feel like we're ahead in that. And I appreciate that because I do think if we can demonstrate that that's going well, then we need to just keep moving forward. I would also, when we're doing the community meetings, Autumn, you probably got all of this well lined out, but I do think that point is important for parents to understand that this is a first step in our going back to school, so that that they're prepared for the potential for it to, perhaps go back into that full hybrid model that we had intended at the beginning of the year. I just want to make sure people are really clear on what they're looking at as they make that choice. Perfect. And then one question I had for Trip, I know you had mentioned this last time, but wanted to just circle back. I shouldn't use circle back. The limited in person, you had mentioned that we would start that with middle school and high school. I believe when we started moving back into our K-3 or some point in there, can you just clarify where we're at on moving forward with that, with our middle and high school, and what the parameters are that maybe principals are using to start that process?
Yeah, I could. It might. I don't know if Jennifer and Greg are available right now, but it might be great for them to speak because they're working on it at the moment. We met the other day and we talked about, I know that at Baker Prairie, they've put together an opportunity for kids to come together in the afternoon and on a number of days per week to do like a kind of an exercise program, if you will, walking and, really more of that social emotional, but an opportunity to bring kids together. They're also putting together an afternoon program for kids to get some additional academic support. I know those are the two, and Jennifer, if you're there, I don't know if you want to jump in, but, and I know Greg and his team are working on.
Jennifer said you can move her over.
Okay. And then I know that Greg and his team are looking at similar kinds of activities. The one, Greg put a really pretty extensive list that included, small group activities for freshmen, seniors, kids that are disconnected. I mean, a pretty robust list. And the key with all of this is really staffing, because, we have teachers that are on full-time assignments right now. And so being able to free them up to be able to do the kind of limited in person is a challenge. We'll continue to look at ways to bring in potentially classified staff to help out. We may post positions and see if we can have some people that aren't currently working for the district that might be interested in coming in and helping out as well.
Okay, I'm going to be talking, so you guys need to stop.
Okay, Jennifer, you're on.
Sorry about that. So like Trip said, next week, it's nice to see all of you. We are starting our fitness club, so we're excited about that. We have, I think, 20 students coming Tuesday, Thursday, and 20 on Wednesdays and Fridays. So it's really, the goal is to just be social while social distancing with their masks on and the protocols that we're all following. And then we are just ending our first semester on Friday. So our teachers will be filling out a form as a team, because all of our students are in cohorts, so they're in 4 different houses. And so they'll be filling out a form for students who they feel would benefit from being in limited in person. So we'll have data that will help us. It's on a scoring rubric. So we'll be able to look at that data. We'll be able to make a decision not based really on the numbers and who they feel best meets it and that they've met the criteria, or the teachers, by their grades, their attendance, their ability to have, be able to learn at home or have the support at home. So that's how we'll make that determination. And then our goal will be so the goal is for teachers to have that to us by the following Friday, not next Friday, but the following Friday. Then we'll start calling parents, and we'll be scheduling busing or transportation, whether they're walking or getting dropped off. And then start that first week in March, hopefully, is the goal for us, is the same week that K-3 opens up. And let's see. Oh, and so that we are looking at Mondays and Thursdays, a block of time in the morning and a block of time in the afternoons. So that we'd have a cohort coming Monday, Thursday in the morning, and a potential cohort in the afternoons on Monday, Thursday, and then a different cohort that could come Tuesday, Wednesday after school. So like 2:15 to 4:15 after their classes are over. And the goal is to get them some support in the classes that they're having, and answer questions, help them get their homework done, help them get on their apps if they need help. So really just to support their learning. So I feel like we have a really good plan to get that up and going. And the scoring rubric will be shared with the district office, so they have that support or that information as well. If a parent calls and feels like their child should be in it and they didn't make the cut to come in, to get in.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Any
Thanks
questions?
for the impromptu visit.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that.
Perfect. Thank you, Trip.
And I think Greg would say the same thing, that, there he is. Go ahead, Greg.
I'm here. I came over first, but Jennifer was lagging behind. So yeah, go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I could just say ditto. We've got at the high school, we're looking at a number of different limited in-person kind of supplemental activities that would be going on mostly after school. The initial proposal that I've given to the district really are 4 different programs. There's a CEAP senior support LIPI. This is going to be intended to help those students that are both struggling to get all their graduation requirements done, and those students that have leftover work to do from the closure last spring. We're developing a 9th grade support program that would be modeled similarly to our CATS program, which was prior to the closure, an after-school support session for freshmen. We're looking at developing a program for special ed kids who need additional support. And then finally, we've already developed this plan and we're just waiting for the green light on it, doing really kind of an experimental CTE program through our construction and manufacturing programs of studies, where students would come in and actually work with our staff to finish construction on the ATC annex that was started last year. So those are the initial programs. We've got a number of other ones waiting in the wings that we're starting to flush out, including some opportunities for perhaps performing arts to meet after school. We're looking at maybe the robotics club, maybe some additional supports that would bolster what's going on in regular classroom instruction. Not in lieu of that instruction, but to supplement that instruction. So there are really a number of different things going on. I'd also point out that through the whole closure, we have been able to maintain some of our athletic programs that they're practicing, and Mr. Weiniger is following that situation very closely. We're hoping to get some competitions here started really soon, especially in the area of soccer, I understand. And we're just kind of waiting for the word on football. So there's a number of things happening at the high school. We're excited about bringing some students back. When we look at the moving into a hybrid model and bringing kids in person, as Tripp has mentioned, for 3rd trimester, we have a couple of models that are going to sync nicely with what the elementary schools are doing, bringing kids in the morning to get some in-person instruction. Granted, it is not fully replacing what they would normally have, but it would be at least an introduction. And I think most importantly for the board to understand, we spent a good time last August developing a master schedule that would be flexible enough to move into a hybrid model, whether that is a limited hybrid model or the full hybrid model, whenever we need to move into that. So once the superintendent and the board feels that's the direction to go, the high school is ready to move in that direction. I think there's going to be some transition activities associated with that, but at least structurally our schedule is prepared to make that change.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it again. I didn't mean to have you do that impromptu, but that was wonderful. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sarah, does that answer your questions?
Yes, and thank you, Greg and Jennifer, for popping in unexpectedly. I appreciate that. It was very helpful.
I did a little slow play before I brought you over just to make sure you had, pants on and stuff. So I will, I'll leave you guys on this side until we're done with this whole item in case there are other questions for you. And then when that's done, then I'll put you back over and set you free. Okay, Dawn, you were up next.
Thank you. I just want to start by saying I really appreciate some of the comments that I've heard tonight. And I also want to just say I understand how hard administration is working to try to get the schools to open. And I know it's not an easy task to do. But I think that we're all on the same page when we're speaking for parents and we're speaking for children that want and need to get back to school. I hear from many board members tonight that, you know, they want school to open. What can we do? They're asking questions about ODE and guidance. And I just want to say that, you know, the reason that I brought up having a conversation with another superintendent, it's really not to push any buttons or not say, hey, I don't appreciate what you're trying to do, because I do. But it's not really about us versus them. It's more of what can we learn from each other? What can we bring to the table, right? And I think that if we just separate ourselves from being insulted, that maybe we can listen to what other people have to say, we can collaborate, and we can get some ideas. I was really liking this ALC superintendent for the fact that he's been open since August 24th, and they've been in school, in the classroom. They haven't had any cases of COVID that have led back to the teachers. They had 3 students that had COVID, and it was because their parents brought it to them. But honestly, I think it's just, for me, it's frustrating sometimes as a board member, because I want to reach out. Even last year when we did the papers going home and the packets, I reached out to other superintendents. I reached out to other boards. I reached out to our state representatives, just trying to figure out what I can do to help parents at their request. Like, what can we do? And bottom line, this always has to do with communication. We have to be able to communicate in a way that we don't feel threatened, that we're all here for the same reason. Everybody here tonight says they want to see our kids get back in school. They want a timeline. They want to know when we can, go more than 3.5 hours. Everybody is here for the same reason, but I'm going to tell you, I honestly feel a little bit slighted that I can bring somebody to the table that has such success, but nobody wants to hear that. And we just need to get together. We need to collaborate. We need to respond to emails. We just need to come together. And I'm not asking for anything more. I'm not doing any of this because I want to upset the apple cart here. I'm doing this because these are things it's my duty. It's my job as a board member. And again, I'll thank you so much for everything that you are doing. But I'm just asking, that we can glean more information from other districts. And I know, Trip, that you have superintendent meetings, but sometimes just when I'm picking up the phone, I hear great ideas, and I want to be able to share those ideas without others feeling threatened. I want to be able to share those ideas because these kids want to get back in school. I have parents hounding me with questions every single day, and I'm just doing my job here. I'm trying to do the best I can. And so I'm hoping that tonight we have an opportunity to listen to the superintendent. He's with me now. I'm willing to do his presentation and he'll walk me through it. But again, it's not about us versus them. It's like, what can we learn from each other? How can we help each other? That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Other hands? Just looking. Rob.
Yeah, I had one question for Autumn. You'd mentioned that I think it was on the 16th, we need to submit a revised blueprint to ODE. Is that just a file and go? Do they have the opportunity to provide comment or hold us up in any way? Or how does that work? And if you could describe what revisions we expect to include in that blueprint as well.
Yeah, so it's they're essentially done. We're just working on some additional details at the building level around what the arrival procedure looks like at this specific school, and what the dismissal procedure looks like. So overall, much like we did back in August and then again in October when we got feedback from Clackamas County Public Health, we submit them. Nobody approves them. Nobody, I know that public health reviews them. They've been a little bit behind, and they've just hired someone who is specifically available to help with that. But they're not, they don't approve, they don't give advice, they don't say, this looks great, you should do this model, or did you think about this? It's really just, yes, this process you have meets the requirement for this particular part of the blueprint. And in terms of what was new this go around, it was just some additional information. Like the one of the things in there was you have to offer on-site testing if you're in the red. So really just looking through I went through and just found every single thing that was new. And then we collaborated, all of the district team, and then each building has a blueprint team, and they are working through that this week to review everything in the blueprint and say, yes, this is reflective of what's happening at our school. And then essentially that serves as our guide for how we're operating school when we're open. So when we do make a transition into a full day hybrid, we'll need to revise them again. And it's just really our way of keeping a living document that shows this is our operational guide. And it's not parent friendly whatsoever. And so we have created a handbook that goes over the most important health and safety protocols that we'll be providing to parents. And then we're also creating a series of videos, school specific and some district wide, that help walk parents through some of the health and safety protocols so they can understand, yes, my student has to wear a face covering all day. Yes, this is what recess is going to look like. And so all of those videos are basically the parent friendly version of what it says in this crazy ODE document.
Okay. Thanks, Autumn.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
You're going to kill me, Rob, aren't you? Are there other questions, comments? It's sort of morphed into the board discussion as well as the update. So if there are other comments from people, now would be the time. Dawn?
Is this where you're going to allow Stephanie to speak, or did you want me to hold off on that?
That's what I'm saying. My name is only on there because I facilitate board discussions. So, like I said, we're sort of morphing into this. It's all becoming one. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So I do, would you allow me to share screen?
I think it's turned on.
Okay. I don't like to speak third party, but I think what this gentleman has to say is so positive. I'm going to do my best because you won't let him present. So this is a presentation by Mark Thielman. He is the ALSI superintendent. They have, I believe, 964 students in their district. They have been in school since August, I believe, 24th of 2020.
Dawn, can I just interrupt really quick?
Absolutely.
When I look at the ODE, or when I have the information up, it says there's only 300 students. And then another site, it said there's only 158. So I'm a little confused. Is it at a charter? Do they have a charter school or something in the district? Like
100% growth due to the pandemic.
They've had 400% growth due to the pandemic. So maybe that website isn't updated. But even Trip, with all due respect, even if they don't have the numbers and you don't think it aligns with our district, I still think the information is important. It really has nothing to do, in my opinion, with how many students they have. It's just really how to encourage, staff and take some power. And it's just really positive. That's all.
Well, I'm just looking for clarification. That's all.
There you go. Yeah, I saw that in the email earlier as well. That's why I said that. So leadership, of course, sets the tone, and I can't see this. So hang on one moment. and sets the work. So surveying all staff, I know that you've done that and that's awesome. We've done the surveys to know what staff wants to return, which staff doesn't, but also like how to mitigate the risk to the district as far as bringing or somebody getting ill with COVID. And so, and then also just letting the staff know that, of course, PPE is an investment. It's all about staff safety. Staff is the most important component of operating the school. And we know that, we get that. Our kids miss our staff. They want to be with their teachers. And all efforts must absolutely be made to keep every staff member safe and working. Yeah, and the best people to determine that is the staff themselves. They know that. So give teachers and the staff input to structure their classrooms. I know you're doing all of these things. I'm just so excited to see that a district is, very confidently doing, providing in-person learning. And I know that some of our classrooms may look like this already, but things that may help. Again, I'm speaking for somebody else, you guys, and I'm doing the best I can because my voice has been silenced. So go ahead.
So we had custom-made barriers.
They had custom-made barriers for, you can see the little pods in here.
And the reason is that young kids don't do well with masks.
And they did that just because they felt like the young kids just didn't do well with masks on. Are we doing anything like that?
And it goes all the way to the floor for earthquakes.
I'm sorry, Tripped walked away during that, so.
Dawn, are you asking if we're doing mask breaks for kids? Is
No,
that what?
we're putting up any of these barriers. I just thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, we do. We have some in place specifically for when we are working with reading specialists or when we're doing additional work where students might need to see mouths and those kinds of things. I didn't say that well, but yes, we do have some of that in place.
The barriers were designed for each individual.
So barriers are designed here for each individual student, as you can see, so they can take their masks off. Just because those younger kids, it's so hard to keep them on.
And we ask them to wear their masks if they do take them off.
And they ask them to absolutely wear their masks, but they do ask that if they need to take them off, that they're behind these barriers for any reason. And I know, for me personally, having kids who, are come from a lot of trauma, they have a lot of anxiety wearing masks. And I certainly don't want them to have to miss out on going to school because they can't wear a mask. I mean, that's really difficult. So use multiple mitigations in every situation, facilitating a mask break in the classroom. I know that you guys are doing a lot of this, but training the staff to think mitigation at all times. So how to protect our staff and our district from getting into a lawsuit. Maintaining the confidence of parents in the community. I think this is hands down the most important thing that we can do is, have that operational blueprint and by our local health authority. And I think that we're being well informed by ODE. We're being informed that it's safer for kids to go back to school. I know that teachers are getting their shots and that's one of the goals. But maybe hire an extra classified staff to perform real-time cleaning, disinfecting. I'm sure that we're doing all of those things, but again, making sure that kids don't come back for 72 hours post-fever, 4-day isolation recommended with COVID testing, all of these things. I know, Trip, that we've talked about as far as the testing that may be done in the schools. I know that we just had a conversation about ventilation and temperatures. Before even getting on the bus and assigning bus orders. Again, it's a lot of work. And I know there's so many things that have to be done, but it's just really awesome to, have somebody that's gone through this and has been really successful for, the last 6 months on how to navigate through this. And it's refreshing. Administrators need to verbalize that individual staff, parents feel and what our fears are and validate and make it appropriate. It is for me, the things that I hear every day is I don't know how my kid can go back. They can't wear a mask all day. And that's a personal experience for me. I'm afraid, there's not going to be enough teachers. I'm afraid the high school won't get back. But and I know that we're doing those things, but the timeline keeps moving, and we keep having a conversation about, when are we going to get back? And we just really need to reassure them that, we're going to try to stick to this as much as we possibly can. I know last week so many people were really excited to get the email out on Friday, and when it didn't get out until later, like I was inundated with text messages from parents wondering, what was going on. So people are just scared, right? Like if they don't hear from us, they're scared. Logging and contact tracing. I know that you guys have already covered all of that, but logging in visitors and taking temperatures, using the kiosks to time stamp people traffic and daily staff check-ins. And be prepared to be treated as a hero and a villain. Like we're not going to please everybody, right? It's going to be super hard to do this, but accommodate changing staff and community requests. I know that some parents we heard from tonight are worried about, a teacher that they may not have the same teacher that they've had during this online. So
we allow parents to put their kids in and out of brick and mortar based on changing news.
They allow the parents to take their students out of brick and mortar based on, any news that's currently happening.
You support them with CDL.
And then they support them with the CDL learning, and while they're open for the other students. So just, being able to hop back and forth. And most important, here is Mark Thielman's contact information. Please feel free to contact him, anybody. He isn't the first superintendent that I've contacted or Stephanie has contacted, because that's really, what this is about is getting as much information as possible. And I'm positive that I did not do a very good job doing this presentation, and there is so much more that should be said. But thank you for giving me the floor and sharing the screen, and hopefully there's maybe just a little something. And maybe we could have this slide put in the minutes. That would be great. Thank you.
Sure, happy to do that. Any other board discussion? Don, I'm assuming that hand was from this time, right? Okay. Thank you for all of your work to the district team. I cannot imagine the logistics that you are trying to manage right now. Greg and Jennifer, I'm gonna send you back over. Don't take it personally, just letting you free.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on. Oops. If I can get this to work. Okay, we're moving on to item 5.2. Before we do that, I am remiss in not, I meant earlier to say a belated thank you for last board meeting and thank you for tonight to our translators. Veronica Martinez and Brenda Splitz-Tosser are doing work that I imagine is pretty tough, considering, trying to remember to speak slowly, but doesn't always happen. So thank you very much for your work helping us with that component tonight. Item 5.2, human resources update.
Good evening. I'm going to share my screen. You guys see it? Is it in presentation mode? Mm-hmm. Excellent. I've got two screens. All right. So good night or good night. Hello. So I'm doing an update for reopening, and thank you to Veronica and Brenda who already translated my slides. So I'm starting with vaccinations. By the way, Michelle Riddell, Director of Human Resources. Want to provide you with an update on vaccinations. There is a lot going on. So basically what we did in Clackamas County is the region got together, and it is Clackamas, Multnomah, and Washington counties that are taking a tri-county regional approach, and that is how we're vaccinating all of our educators. So amongst all three of those, there's around 40,000 plus educators. And basically 4 healthcare systems came together to create a central place, and that is at the convention center. So appointments are prioritized by waves, and I will get into that, exactly which wave is which educators. And the ESD notifies us when each of those waves opens up. And they were targeting about 15,000 shots per week. And we started back on January 26th is when it opened. And I notify our staff when each of those waves open up, and we give them detailed instructions. They get a link that actually allows them to get to a chat bot that asks questions that then determines eligibility. And then it creates a link for them to actually make a appointment. And when they do go to those appointments, they get a vaccination card that puts down the date of the dose, the type, the lot number, and then you are signed up for your second dose while you are waiting. So the 4 waves are agreed to by the Tri-County. So we all got to put input, but ultimately the Tri-County came up and said, this is who's in each wave. So wave 1, which opened on January 26th, started with pre-K, first grade teachers, specialists, our classified staff working in those elementaries, our custodial nutrition services, and then we also, I'm communicating and offering it to our bus drivers at STA that are going to be driving for us. And it also included limited in person. So if we knew that you were going to be teaching limited in person or supporting that, then you were in the first wave. So wave 2 is 2nd through 6th, and the classified staff that support that. And wave 2 opened up, actually it says opened at noon, but it opened up last week. And what is exciting is that actually wave 3, which is our middle school, did get to open today at noon. So that was quicker than anticipated, although there is not as many appointments out there at the moment. And that is for a variety of reasons. I'm sure you've heard that, more people are being put into the vaccine pool. And so that has limited the spots. We anticipate that wave 4, which will be our high school specialists, our classified support there, as well as our substitutes. So we are tracking who is willing to work for us, and they will be allowed to get vaccines, as well as coaches and all of our other district staff and board members will be eligible. And that will happen. We anticipate that happening February 15th. It might happen a little sooner. We will have to see. With wave 3 opening today, there is some hope that that might happen sooner. What is very exciting is that we got to hold our own vaccine clinic here at Canby, and that is thanks to Canby Fire. So they reached out to us to say that they may have an opportunity for us to receive vaccinations, and it came true. So we quickly last Thursday night got word and were able to put together a vaccine clinic that got 90 plus staff vaccinated last Friday. And we prioritized our pre-K staff because they were our pre-K 6 staff because they were coming back on March 1st and March 8th. And then there's already doses set aside. And so we'll be giving them their second dose here at the end of February. A big thank you to all of our volunteers because it took a lot of people. So we definitely want to thank Canby Fire, Dr. Davies' office, and our own volunteers who came together and helped us out and made this possible. Okay, so staffing. So you've been hearing a lot about that tonight. So K-6 principals have really been working hard. And as you heard Autumn talk about, they're not going to be able to finalize the staffing assignments until we get all of the enrollment numbers. That'll be happening next week once families get more details about each of those schedules. That will allow our principals to finalize who's teaching CDL and who will be in person. And then we will be working with employees who have approved workplace accommodations. They'll be prioritized for CDL positions. So that will be happening as well. And just in terms of options, employees who do not receive an accommodation may qualify for an FMLA or OFLA leave, or they could request an unpaid leave. So these are some of the complexities and details that are very important that we'll be working quickly once we have all of the data in from our parents. And then temporary teachers will be hired to cover any leaves of absence. We already have pools posted for temporary elementary teachers, as well as our substitutes. And currently we have hired who've committed to us to actually come and work in person, about 60 actually licensed subs. We're hiring every day. We've got postings out. For classified substitutes, we're about 21, so we definitely need to try and boost that number. We are offering training, obviously, to our substitutes. It's important that they know what to do when they come to our buildings. So we are going to be paying them to do the required online health and safety training, as well as they're going to be assigned to schools so they can go and get the training with the K-6 staff that week of the February 22nd. And then our technology department is deploying laptops so that our subs can actually check out those laptops if they have to go in and do in-person subbing. You also heard that our Child Development Center is opening, so that is very exciting. It's opening on Monday. And, many of our staff count on this for their childcare. And the other thing you may or may not have known is we had to lay off some of our childcare staff. We were able to offer all of them other positions in our district if they chose, but now they're all back and getting trained this week. We also had open slots for the childcare center. So we sent those out to all of our staff. So staff who needed childcare could, if they were birth to 5, could choose to get their kids into our center. In terms of training, our nurses have been on site for the last couple of days going over all their required health and safety trainings. They also have some additional trainings that have to happen and protocols with the early education guidance from ODE. So there's some special things that have to happen in childcare centers. So they're doing those. And then the required OSHA employee training. And we'll be doing that across the system. And those were some of the changes too, Rob, that came out on January 19th. ODE aligned its guidance with OSHA's requirements for all employers and employees. Reopening training, so we'll be doing that OSHA required health and safety. And what that entails is there's some online videos, and then we'll be, Diane Holmes and the nurses, Kane and Ruth, we will actually be doing another webinar that we'll record with all of the updated information. And then we'll do a live Q&A at the end of it, because that's really where you need people, asking questions about, well, what does this mean? And exactly what does this mean? And so we did this last August and found it really helpful. People can put their questions in the chat. So we'll be doing that. And then again, just about that in-building training, having buildings doing the required health and safety for each of their buildings, as well as just understanding the routines and all those changes that are going to be happening within a building, like where are we eating lunch? How are kids going to recess? And so there's a lot there, and we need to make sure that staff are really comfortable with the new routines. It's all new. And we also want to make sure that that information is then being put out to our parents so that kids kind of get ready and kind of understand these new routines. The other thing that we've been working on since the early winter is on CPR and first aid training, because you have to have so many people, that are certified in a building. And we had a lot of people that we normally would be doing CPR training all year. And so we were able to offer a hybrid training model where folks went ahead and did online training, and then they came in and did 2.5 hours in session. So we were able to certify 42 building staff, and then our new health assistants were trained, as well as a new pre-K IA. So all that happened, and a big thanks to our nurses and Doug Reichen and Nancy Thompson, who really coordinated all those efforts. All right, questions?
Thanks, Michelle. Board have any questions?
I just want to give a quick shout out to Michelle for the work she's accomplished with the vaccines. And just, again, when you look back when this all started, she's just been really tireless in terms of reaching out to staff members, asking them what do they need during this time? How can they, again, feel like there's support through the HR department. And she's really done an amazing job throughout this time, coming up with accommodations for people. And then the vaccinations, Matt Dale and Jim over at Canby Fire, I called Michelle and just said, please coordinate this. And she and the team, Diane Holm, all the nurses, it's really been incredible. Yeah, Autumn Foster. I mean, the list is really pretty big. And so thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see any hands, so thank you. It was very thorough. I spoke too soon.
I got one. Sorry. Question on the training. Is the on-site training happening at each individual school, specific to that school, or is it one map each individual school?
Yeah, each school, because they're learning about what's happening, how is the traffic pattern going? How are kids getting off buses and into classrooms? What happens if a student has symptoms? How are they getting down to the office? What does snack and recess look like? So all of that, that's part of that 10 hours of training at the building.
And then we have the staff to do that. It's not being pulled off in one day. It's over multiple days, I'm assuming.
Correct. Yeah. So we're doing it likely afternoons. And so there might be some disruption in the online learning for a couple of days, and that'll be communicated to families, but we're doing it afternoons.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you, Michelle.
Thanks.
And thanks to your crew, and we can't say thank you enough right now. Okay, item 6.0, future agenda items. Our next meeting is February 18th. There's a 1 there, apparently. Sarah, I think you said you have some suggestions.
Yeah, sorry. For some reason, I can't get my pretend hand to raise. So, but I did have 2 things I thought might be helpful for next meeting. And Michelle, you kind of touched a little bit on one, and I think it would be really valuable to, if possible, I know our nurses are really busy right now, but I would appreciate hearing from Diane and perhaps doing a really nice overview for us and our parents on all the things that she's been doing. I know they've been really busy on the protocols that are in place. Like we've talked about, certainly it's going to happen where we're going to have a positive COVID case. So what are we doing so we're ready and prepared for that? And kind of laying those things out for us. I think that would be really helpful if she can fit it in. I know that she's probably busy, but. And then the second thing, I know the other question I'm sure all of us get a lot is on getting back to sports and activities. I know Ben gave us an update a while back, but it's been a while, and I would be interested as we move back into getting into school, if he could give us a new update on what that looks like, both for sports and for clubs, extracurricular activities with theater, and just kind of that whole picture of kind of our groups and activities and where we're at on moving forward with that.
Great. Are there other suggestions? Okay. Item 7.0, good of the order. And this will be our last item before we take a recess and enter into executive session. Dawn, I just saw your hand pop up. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm reflecting on our our public comments tonight. And I saw a lot of other comments that came through that I just feel were really valuable that were emailed. And I didn't see them on the list of comments that were read. And so I just want to say, like, going forward, like maybe there was some concern that it was derogatory towards a person, but there are a few in here that I didn't think were at all derogatory, and they're not in the comments, the public comments. And it's important that we hear everybody's voice. So in the future, maybe if somebody's being cut off, I know that you do a really good job, Angie, to try to go through there and take people and let them know that we're not going to accept comments that are derogatory or go against somebody's character. But again, I did see a few come in, and if you're hesitant about maybe letting somebody or have those read, maybe you could check with somebody. Maybe you already did that, but I sure would like to have those read. Thank you.
Yeah. And I, as has been true for all of these meetings, I'm doing the best I can when it comes to that stuff. And as I said earlier, any comments, most of the time people send the comments to the entire board, but I'm going to go back through and double check and make sure that there aren't any that just came to me that I will share around. But I have I'm using the same sort of screening for all comments, no matter what the direction. So I appreciate your comments. And, as I said, I'm doing the best I can. Mike.
Yeah, kind of like echo what Don was saying. I make sure I read every letter that comes to the board. So if they're sending it just to you, then if I can get a copy, I'd appreciate it.
I promise I am not trying to hide anything from
I
anyone.
know you're not. I know you're not.
Other good of the order? Okay, so we are going to take a 5-minute recess. And at this point, we will ask all of the meeting attendees that are not part of the executive session to please log out. And we will come back in. Let's see, it's just about 9 o'clock now. So we'll just do 9:05. We'll come back and start into our executive session. And what I typically do is I hope people can log out. If I need to, I can remove people, but then it makes it difficult for you to be back in the future. So if you are listening and capable of doing that, I'd appreciate it if you would log out. Okay, we will be back in